Good. Thank you so much
Good.
for doing this with us.
I'm so excited to do it. Well, this is going to be easy. I'm easy peasy.
Thank you. Thank you. Um,
There's no like hard hitting questions, okay?
Trying to keep it easy and, informative
Yeah.
and fun.
Don't ask me any like my deep, darkest secrets or anything.
No, no,
I'll tell you anyways, but it's okay.
we got it like that. So,
Yeah,
so I'm just
yeah. Okay.
to start by maybe you can let everyone know a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you end up this amazing fashion personality? What was
Thank
your sort
you.
of road to lead you here?
So my road is a very indirect one. My love of fashion and style and all that stuff started like on my mom's floor reading her Vogue magazines in the 80s, obviously. But I always loved watching everything about fashion. I dreamed of being a fashion designer, and that was always in the back of my head. And I was a really good student. So, sort of, okay, I knew I could go and study something. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I definitely had an inkling that I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I had no background in sewing or design or anything, but I can draw a little.
Yeah.
And I basically applied to law school and fashion design school. And I ended up being encouraged by my family to go to law school. And I got into fashion design school, which was crazy at FIT. And so they were like, you know what, go to law school. It's a great education. You'll, have that for the rest of your life. And you can decide in a few years what you want to do with the rest of it. So I did go to law school. I got 2 law degrees from McGill,
Wow.
and I graduated in 3.5 years. And so instead of going straight to my law job, which I had lined up, I was like, you know what, law firm, hang on one second. I just got to go to FIT for a bit. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So I went to FIT for 1 semester. I was by far the oldest student there. And I also had the least sewing skills on the face of the earth. Probably the only class I've ever failed a test in was sewing. And I realized after one short semester that I loved fashion. The passion was there, but maybe design wasn't what I wanted to do. I ended up deferring the law experience and then went to California and worked in fashion for about a year.
Oh,
And just to get sort of a sense of what else there was involved. So I worked for a bag making company, and I worked on design, and I worked on sales, and I worked on marketing. And then I was like, okay, wait, hang on, fashion. I'm going to go be a lawyer. So I went to go be a lawyer for a couple of years, and I worked really hard. I was in New York City at a huge corporate law firm.
wow.
And then I sort of looked around and I was like, okay, this has been an amazing experience. But in the end, my passion, the thing that lights me up inside is being creative, being around creative people. And I love fashion and style and shopping. Shh, don't tell anyone. And there you go, one secret. And then I ended up quitting my job at the corporate law firm. I was doing M&A, and I quit, and I went back to Montreal, which is where I'm from. And I started working for my family business. While I was doing that, I started writing a fashion blog. And it was sort of before other people were doing that. I've always been an early adopter in terms of digital stuff. I like learning about stuff. That's sort of a theme throughout my entire career is I really like new and innovative things, and I don't shy away from it. I delve in.
Of it, yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I remember saying to my brother, I'm going to start this fashion blog. And I think he was the only person reading it at the time. And I said, my only goal is that I want to sit front row at Fashion Week. And literally within the year, I was hired by Toronto Fashion Week to be their official style blogger. And I started covering all the shows, shooting all my own pictures, editing all my own photos, writing reviews of all the different shows that went on throughout the week, every semester, you can tell I'm in school mode, every season. And then I ended up working for a bunch of different companies, sort of helping them with digital strategy, but usually related to fashion, or beauty. So I worked for TIFF, I worked for Toronto Fashion Week. I was working for all these different brands, sort of helping them with different innovative ideas around strategy and content. And then what happened was I got hired as the CMO of a company called Glossybox,
Yeah.
and I started doing a lot of beauty related content. And they sort of said to me, well, why don't you go and sort of be the face of it? You can speak, you can go on TV, you can talk about this stuff. And I started doing that for them. I was doing a whole dog and pony show. And what happened there was TV stations started saying to me like, oh, maybe you'll come back and you'll talk about style and fashion. And then companies were saying, maybe you'll go on air for us. And talk about style and fashion. So I ended up working for Virgin Radio and for Global, and now I work for the shopping channel. And then sort of the consulting stuff, I still do some consulting for CAFA, the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards, and I do some work on air for them as well. But for the most part, it's sort of transitioned into this sort of content related, always fashion and style related career, which, as I mentioned, very indirect road, but I got here and I'm pretty happy I did.
It to be. So that's amazing. And so you were saying it was your mom's Vogue magazines and stuff. So is your mom a fashionista as well?
Um, my mom is a professor at McGill in education. She is a very, very brilliant woman and very career focused and very hardworking. But yes, she always knew how to put things together interestingly. She always knew about how to dress for your body type. She was always giving me sort of tips and tricks. And she was always encouraging me to sort of look at fashion as a way to express myself because I was very creative.
Yeah.
And my dad as well. I can't discount my dad. My dad is a stylish dude.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dad, yeah. So all of this drive, you're nonstop. You're in LA, you're in New York, you're in Montreal, you're all over the country. Like, where do you get this fire and drive from?
So I definitely think that what has been a common thread throughout my entire career is an entrepreneurial spirit and a sense of ownership. So no matter whether I've been working for other people or for myself, I have a sense of responsibility and doing what I say I'm going to do and doing it well.
Here.
Where does that come from? I think it's, definitely being around two very ambitious, self-made parents who were always about doing what you say you're going to do, doing it with integrity, and also doing it with a bit of a sense of humor. So that helps. And I definitely think that I'm always afraid, like everybody else, I get super afraid and nervous, but I always try and do stuff that makes me a little bit nervous or makes me a little bit afraid, because those have been the things that have been the most rewarding. And I think once you try like one or two times and you see like, okay, it's a little scary at the beginning, but if you just put yourself out there or you just try something totally different, like finishing law school and going to FIT, like that was banana boats, right? Like crazy. And doing that was really scary. What? I didn't hear you.
You even had your job lined up after law school and you still were like,
yeah.
So that's scary.
Yeah. Hold that thought. I'm going to just like pack up all my stuff, head to this big bad city. And I did that throughout everything I've done. It's like, I'm afraid, but I push through because I know that that's the only way that you can learn and grow and achieve. And so I've always had, I have great supportive family, and now I have a great supportive family with my husband and my kids, but I definitely always believe in taking risk, calculated risk, but taking that risk, just taking those steps that maybe make you a little uncomfortable, because sometimes you get beat down. Trust me, it's happened. But I think if you don't take yourself too seriously and you take those chances, you can end up having really amazing opportunities.
Right? Like you have made so many amazing opportunities out of all this. I'm just wondering too, how's COVID changed the way you're doing your day to day? I know it's a big deal, but I was just wondering, like, is your day completely different than what it was, BC, before COVID?
BC, I love that. So I would say when we were in complete like quarantine lockdown, I definitely was struggling with the idea of talking about fashion and style in the face of people really having a lot of very hardcore struggles. So I definitely was shying away from doing anything content related that wasn't sort of helpful.
Right.
So to me, like talking about trend and fashion and style when people are worrying about jobs and how they're going to function, especially at the beginning, was really a challenge for me, sort of morality wise. So I actually was not really doing as much at the beginning. Although I say I wasn't doing as much, I was full on homeschooling my kids, like hardcore
I feel
homeschooling my kids. And anybody who says that that's not work, like I know it's so much work. Teachers need to get paid $1 bazillion. And so I was homeschooling my 2.5-year-old and my 4.5-year-old, and that was
Oh,
very full on.
yeah.
And now as things, I don't think that, we're not AC, we're not after COVID yet, but we are definitely, I think like people are trying to move on, and not move on, but like live a normal life a little bit and hold on to the things that make us feel normal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so since I felt a little bit more of that energy, I've been doing a lot of work with Global's national morning show. So I actually shoot all my segments from home.
Oh, nice.
That's been weird. Yeah, super weird.
Because
Um,
or
Sorry?
because you're alone and you're used to having like a crew or yeah.
Yeah. And also just like,
So
hey, I miss people. Like people are great. I miss them. Um, and also just having to like set up your home, and
yeah.
the learning curve of, you know, setting up lighting and doing all this stuff. And then with TSC, I've been doing a lot of digital video with them. I'm now back in studio with them as well, but I was doing a ton of digital video. So suddenly I had to learn how to edit.
Oh,
That's a new skill.
yeah.
Yeah, develop that. I can edit some things now. Yeah, check that box. So I think, it's been a matter of being open to learning new skills, which I think a lot of people are in that boat, and also pivoting a bit.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
Okay.
I'm mom and teacher. Okay, cool. Um, and yeah, and trying to stay positive. Like I think that that's something that has been a struggle. I really do love people. I love being out there. I love, learning people's stories and interacting with them. And to not necessarily be able to do that all the time has been a challenge for sure.
You need that social time. You're a very social person. Yeah, I love that about you. And you're so
Thank you.
warming, so that's
Oh,
really
that's nice. Thank you.
now, okay, you're the expert here. How would you,
Okay.
with all of your extensive knowledge, how would you define fashion?
Oh, okay. Defining fashion. I mean, I think fashion obviously has to do with wearable, right? So that's like the number one sort of commonality through all of fashion. But fashion can mean so many different things to different people. It can be about fitting in.
Mhm.
So wearing the right uniform, the right look and feel to fit into the right environment. So in a way, it can be about camouflaging. It can be about expressing yourself and standing out. It can be totally about art and about expressing emotions. Um, so to me, like what fashion means to me day to day is sort of, I'm always looking at trend,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily follow trend all the time. I don't necessarily want to follow trend all the time, because fashion is about expressing how I'm feeling and my mood and that kind of stuff. So I think it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, but really it's about wearable art, emotion, expression. And then it can also be about culture. It can be about history. So I think that's what I like about it, is it weaves so many different aspects of like anthropology, sociology, psychology, all through an art form that I really understand. And then it's also about self-esteem. So I think there's something really positive about it when it's really building someone's self-esteem, or helping them step outside the box, or helping them to fit in. So I think it's so complicated, but really it is about that wearable. And so whether it's art or expression or emotion or camouflage or history or culture, or demarcating that special moment in time. Because to me, like I really remember events in my life through fashion, like that amazing, dress I wore to that one dance party that I went to when I was that age, like that's how I remember. Like if you ask me what I wore to anything, I remember it, because there's so much woven into it, literally and figuratively, I guess.
Yeah. That's true. If for an interview like this, how
Yeah.
would you suggest someone decide how to style themselves?
So I definitely think that it's interesting that you say that, because I don't think it's straightforward at all. I tend to go for details that are like, bust up, I guess, because you want to be like as interesting as possible, and that's the only way to do it. So like secretly, I might be wearing sweatpants right now, secretly.
I might be.
Um, right. But I definitely think that you want to have some element of interest, but not too much, because you don't want it to be distracting. So interestingly, I actually tried on a shirt with like puff sleeves, and I was like, this is a little too crazy for this screen. I also think that color is helpful. It helps the screen come to life a little bit. So again, wearing just like black, you sort of, it can be a little bit flat, because keep in mind, you are flat in this. And then keeping your background not very distracting. So I find whenever I'm watching like an interview on CNN or something on TV, if you have books on the shelf, I find myself tuning out and looking at the book titles.
The book.
So unless you want to make a statement about who you are with something behind you, in this case, I'm an astronomer. I don't know. I'm not really, but it's there. You want to be careful about what you have in the background. That would be, I guess, my biggest tip.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
What's your favorite part about being in the fashion industry?
My favorite part about being in the fashion industry, I mean, aside from the fact that I get to talk about something that I love and I'm passionate about, and I get paid for it,
Yeah.
because that's like wild. It's still like I wake up every time I go to work and I'm like, I get to do this. This is amazing. I literally, like, my boss must think I'm crazy, because I'm like, I love my job. But I think that I love the people. I really do, because whether you're in the media or you are a designer or a buyer or a stylist, the common element between everyone in fashion is they love it.
Yes.
And I think, I've met some lawyers where they're like, yeah, I like my job. It's all right. But I've never met a stylist that's like, yeah, no, we love our jobs, and so we all want to talk about it and we want to share stories about it. And it really is this community, despite I think how it's been conveyed in some stories in the media and or in movies and TV, whatever. I really think the fashion industry is like this community, and it can be amazing and empowering, and so collaborative, like, because a lot of people want to work together or see how they can help each other. So I definitely think the people. And then I mean, I just like that I get to get dressed up.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I can tell, like, you're all about the people. What do you go to for inspiration? Like, what is your kind of source for to inspire yourself to create something new, or just, even that like little extra piece of jewelry? Or I remember when we met at Fashion Week, you had the really beautiful bows in your hair, and you were telling us, I hadn't heard of her before, and so we were all looking her up. And you're absolutely right. You were so supportive and talking about her and her business, and you let us all know. So these rumors aren't true. We get along up in this industry.
Yeah, we really do. And I think I get inspired by that for
Yeah.
sure. I think one of the things that's helped me, and I think it will help anyone actually, in no matter like what industry or career that they're in, is I'm a researcher. And so that's helped me as an academic, and it helps me as someone who's constantly creating content. And yes, I'm creative and I love stories and I love to write and I love all that stuff. But what really does help me is by paying attention to what is happening around me. And I think that's my curiosity leads me down these weird rabbit holes on the internet, or leads me to watch random stuff online, or to look up, I see something and I want to know more. And it's that curiosity and that research that inspires me for sure. And also a little bit of, I want to use a word that is polite, but I'm a little ballsy. I am. So, I'm standing on the CAFA red carpet and Hillary McMillan is wearing this awesome hair clip that says Hillary McMillan. And I'm like, excuse me, Hillary, like, what is that? I need to know what that is right now. You need to tell me what it is right now, because I want to find out more.
Yes.
And so I think if you don't ask, you don't end up finding out. And I think that I'm always asking, whether it's I'm asking myself the question of like, why is this happening? Why are people wearing all of this? I mean, a trend that we saw, tie-dye, right? Like tie-dye became this huge trend. And I was just like, there's something behind this. I need to understand this. And if you start to think about tie-dye, well, tie-dye is a reference to the 60s and free love and homegrown and grassroots and DIY and all the things that we're needing to feel in a moment where things feel a little crazy and a little out of control and we're stuck at home and we need to express ourselves. Like I had to understand that, right? So I think that if you have that curiosity, it definitely leads to inspiration. And so if you're not feeling inspired, because I don't think there's one source, right? Like, yeah, of course you can go like, I don't know, read WWD or whatever. I think knowing the resources is helpful,
Yeah.
and knowing where you can go to maybe ask those questions. But really it's about paying attention and then asking why and where and what, and doing this sort of detective work of like what is happening, and then that's where I get my inspiration.
Yeah, that's great. Like, do your research, get to know what you're saying before you're out there saying it.
Yeah, and also you never know what you're going to find, right? Like, um with the instance of Hillary McMillan and those hair clips, it ended up being this Ontario-based mom of three who was making these amazing hair clips that were customized, out of her home. And this was what she was doing while she was, taking care of her infant. And then I ended up, finding out about her, loving her story, loving what she was doing, and taking it on to national TV. So like, I think that you find these stories and you can go and start asking those questions. You never know what kind of cool things you're going to find. So it's just about being open to that.
Yeah, exactly. Go where your curiosity takes you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm sure I know you have serious hustle. You're a researcher, you do all of your own, every hat, everything. So explain to the people just how much hustle and work it really takes to get to your level of success, and maybe share a story about something that stands out in your mind that made your success a little bit sweeter.
So I think the hustle is, so I think hustle is something that you have innately. And I like to say, as opposed to hustle, it's entrepreneurial spirit, because I think that it's that idea that if you just think of things a little bit differently or change your approach, maybe you can achieve a little bit more, or maybe you can achieve a little bit better. And I think that that can take place whether you're working for a large scale corporation or for yourself. And I think that's hustle. I think that's what you recognize in an employee as well, right? When someone is like, hey, what if we tried it this way? And you're like,
Hey.
man, that kid's got hustle, Um, so I think that that is definitely how I define it, how I like what it actually takes to do it. I think support,
Yeah.
like in whatever form it takes, and accepting help. I have somebody who works for me
Yeah.
part-time,
Yeah.
because it got to the point where I was doing so many things and I was like, I can't do everything. And it's not, I'm starting to see things slip through the cracks that I don't want to, and I want to keep and maintain that level of professionality and that level of success that I've achieved. So, okay, it's time for me to ask for help and maybe give up some of the control, which a lot of us struggle with. So that's definitely something that I think is required in terms of success, because I think you can have all the hustle in the world, but if you're not willing to take on people who know how to do things better than you, or accept the help that's offered to you, all that hustle can maybe not result in anything. Then I think that constantly trying to, I guess, connect with people. So I am constantly looking at LinkedIn, seeing who I can connect with, what opportunities haven't I looked at. I think of it as like, a giant puzzle. What pieces haven't I thought of yet?
Right.
And I'm always doing that constantly, never without a goal in mind. So I think that you can be doing that, and if you don't have something that you've sort of, I guess, you're trying to manifest, it's really useless, because then you don't actually know what pieces you're looking for, because you want that whole picture in your mind.
Right.
And a story that really will convey that
Okay.
is when I moved to Toronto, again with my brother. This is like a common theme. I said to my brother, who's really a great friend of mine, not to mention my brother, I said to him, I really I want to be on the shopping channel.
Just
And just like randomly, I was thinking about it. I love being on TV. I love live anything, live television, live speaking. And this combined shopping, yay, fashion, yay, beauty, yay, and live television. I was like, that would be freaking amazing. And I said it like he was getting in his car to drive back to Montreal. Like I said it so in passing, but it got the wheels turning. And lo and behold, here I am.
So
And I remember when I got the job at the shopping channel, I said, like, this is hilarious because I said this so like a throwaway line
yeah,
5 years ago. And here I am. And I think that that's what it's about. It's about knowing what the puzzle's going to look like. And then you know what pieces are missing, right?
yeah,
So I think that when you set your mind to something and it comes to life, like working for Fashion Week, which is what I set out to do, like wanting to be on live television all the time. If you sort of know that, then you know what roads to go down and what puzzle pieces are missing. And I think when you finally find that piece and you put it in, it's like finding that missing piece that you've been looking for and you can't find it. And then it pops in and you're like, done. Yeah. So I think that that is definitely how I've stayed focused and how it helps me hustle.
right. That's so important. People don't pay enough attention to, like, you have to understand for yourself what you want and actually speak it. And then the universe will be like, here, Lisa, you get to have it now.
Well, and I'm telling you, I don't think it's the universe. I think what it is if you have it in your mind, then every decision that you make is towards a goal, right? You're not just sort of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, sometimes that's required too.
Yeah.
It is.
In between.
But yeah, you never know. Like, because every now and then you're just like, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But I think that having something sort of working in that monkey brain, lizard brain in the back, driving you, once you sort of realize what it is, even though that may not be what you think about every single day,
Right.
your decisions that you're going to make are going to lead you towards that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. I wonder if you could say what would be the top kind of skills. I know you mentioned research and following your curiosity and things like that, but what else would you give as kind of the top skills you'd need for a successful fashion expert career?
I definitely think always playing nice. And so that's something that I pride myself on is I make a point of always being polite. I'll say what I mean.
Mhm.
I'll say how I feel,
Kind
but yeah, like there's no need to be rude or a diva. And speaking of which, and I think this all ties together, there is no job that has ever been like too small for me, ever.
of awesome.
So if someone needs help carrying something from this room to that room, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and help you carry it.
No,
And I've never been like too big or too, I mean, I'm not big. I'm a
you
very short person, but I just mean like, I've never been above doing anything because
that you
ultimately, like, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. There are other people that I think everyone deserves respect and deserves to have their story heard or to be heard. And it doesn't matter where they are in terms of the hierarchy of anything.
right.
So whether you're in fashion design and you're the person putting together that show and you are the star of the show for that day, every person that's working for you, every person that's walking down that runway, every person that is doing the lighting or the ushers that are seating people, they're all people with parents or kids,
Right.
and their own stories and their own reasons for being respected and loved and taken care of. And so I try and take that with me no matter what I'm doing, wherever I am. So whether it's the person that's handing me my coffee or the person that is the person I report to, they all deserve respect. And I've never been above doing anything to help the people around me. And I think that that doesn't matter what career you're in, actually. I just think, like, just do the work and always be nice.
Be a good. I was actually, I'm so happy with that answer. I wasn't expecting that, but that's so important. That's so important. So,
Like, I think that people forget um, maybe what it was like, or they get excited about what they have, or I don't know what it is, but ultimately something that has never been difficult for me, but I've definitely had to point out to other people is like everyone's a person, and so they all have their own lives that they go back to, and the stories that they're working on themselves, creating their own realities and their own journeys. And I think it's about always being respectful of that, and it doesn't matter where you are in your career. And I think that that always comes back. I mean, it happens to be something I just believe in, but
Yeah.
it also comes back to help you. Like I had a really cool moment where there was a woman who was lovely and she was helping me. I was producing and hosting the live red carpet show for CAFA, which is a really big deal and it's really stressful. And it's a live experience. You're working with a lot of different personalities. I'm producing the show, I'm managing the team that's doing all the live production. And I'm also on camera, listening to people, talking to people, interviewing people. It's a lot going on.
Yes.
And here was this woman who signed up to be a volunteer and she helped me. And she helped me whenever we were doing these sort of events for CAFA. She was lovely and we had an amazing relationship, and she was working for me in a very stressful environment.
Yeah.
Well, cut to when I went to the shopping channel, and guess who's one of the buyers now at the shopping channel?
Stop. See, I love.
So it like, all of these people have their own journeys and their own stories. And it's amazing when you build those relationships, no matter what the sort of hierarchy is. If you build those relationships, they last and they follow you throughout your career. So I've had people that were like ushers when I was working for Toronto Fashion Week, and I find them in, now they're working for a PR company. Like you never know where you're going to find people. And so I think that that's something that if it doesn't come innately, work on it.
Work on being kind. Yes, I love that. That's great. Okay, now it's time to maybe say something about your background that would surprise people, or that other people would kind of have no idea about.
I mean, like
You have
the
a
big surprise is I'm a lawyer. I mean, like that usually shocks the pants off people. Um, yeah, I think that that's probably my biggest like surprise card. Um, Other than that, I think, I mean, like there's silly little things like, I can ski. like, I love to ski.
awesome.
Um, Other random things I think like I sing. That's always, people are like, I love music. Music's my jam,
Right.
literally. I don't know, I think that, yeah, those are like
I think
law is the most surprising.
that's awesome. The
Yeah.
lawyer, skier, singer, like, wow, what can't you do
Right.
this, Lisa?
I can't cook. I cannot cook. I
Okay.
cannot. Yeah, can't cook to save my life. I mean, I could cook to save my life,
Yeah, like,
but like please don't ask me to.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I can't bake, I can't cook. But I feel like that's a better question. It's certainly funnier. What else can I do? Yeah, I would say like I'm not the strongest person. Like I'm not like, I can't really lift things. Pretty useless when it comes to that. I'll try though. That's the key.
That's good. See, always ready to go. Um, so where do you kind of see the TV and fashion industry going maybe in the next 10 years or so? Seems to be taking a big turn. So I'm wondering kind of how you see it landing.
I think, I mean, for me to say that I know in any way would be
Right.
absolutely foolish, right?
None
I think, right, no one knows, but I think that's what's exciting about it. So I think that first of all, I think there's some social change that's happening that's so important and so cool.
yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and new voices and new stories, and new visions. And that to me is like thrilling, right? Because that means newness means innovation and evolution, and all of that is really exciting to me.
My hairs are
I
that just like got
yeah, like I think it's there's some really fun stuff that, and not just fun, super important work that's being done and change that's happening. And I think that that is going to evolve into newness.
yes.
And when you're on the brink of newness, that's when I get excited. Um,
Damn.
so yeah, like I think that like that's where the magic happens, right? So number one, that. Number two, I think that digital has become something that's less scary.
Right.
And I think that for certainly certain generations and even certain people, digital was sort of this thing that existed, but it's like, I'm just gonna like let it happen back here and I'm gonna ignore it and whatever. And now there's no ignoring it because it has primarily become the way that we're connecting with people. It has been primarily the way that globalization can still happen when it's not physically happening. And it really is our source of information, or certainly the most up-to-date information, and maybe a source of information where you can have multiple voices and things going on, sometimes for the worse, but like you can see a lot of different sort of perspectives happening simultaneously. So I think that, you know, we may see the democratization of sort of different sources and forms of media. That may happen. I think that we're going to see a lot more acceptance of different sources of information and innovation and experience. And so I think that's really exciting. What that looks like, I don't know, like you should, like, I'll call my husband, he can come talk to you about that. I'm like, you know, marketing technology, not my thing. But I think we're going to see a lot of different spaces and places for new voices and for innovation. And so like, if you do have that idea, like, wait, like we now may have room for it. And it's not even that we may have room for it, we're going to have the urge to consume it. And I think that's really exciting.
So exciting. Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I love how kind and everyone's kind of coming together a lot more. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting decade, I'm sure.
Yeah, it really will. And I don't think that, you know, fashion is going to go anywhere. Like, I just think it's going to have to pivot in certain ways, but it already felt like it needed to anyways.
We were due.
So yeah, like you could feel that energy with how events were changing and how designers were sort of approaching things differently, but maybe there wasn't that full on push. And so now, I mean, maybe this is too much of a push. Like, nobody needed this. But if we're going to look at the positive of it, like sometimes, you know, in order to have like true revolution, you need like a hard stop or a hard pivot. And 180 degrees is sometimes hard to get to when you're evolving. So here it's like, okay, we've all had to like freaking like turn and pivot. Yeah. And I think, yeah, like it's like hard, break and stop and turn. But I think that can lead to some really cool, different spaces and voices. And let's try and err on the side of exciting.
Yeah, sounds really great. I'm hoping it's here to stay, you know? So you always look fantastic every time I see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How would you describe your personal style?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
So I think that, yeah, it depends on the day. I think that there's always something, I like to combine a little bit edgy and a little bit girly. I think there's always that combination, but I think I always still like to dress my age.
Okay.
So that's a fine line that I walk.
In that, like,
and
classy and edgy, and I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really know either. But I do like to combine something like a little bit of sophistication, a little bit of edge, and a little bit of girlishness. And that's sort of the combo that I'm always, I think, secretly trying to achieve in the background. But like, I don't know, my mother jokes that often I look like hippie homeless chic, depends on the day. So, you know, you never know. I definitely think accessories are something that I rely heavily on. I love adding jewelry. I love adding a little bit of color or a little bit of bling, or I love accessories. Oh, then I think I love trend, but I never compromise flattery. So I love looking at trend. I love incorporating elements of trend, but I won't wear trends that don't look good on my body. I'm a 5'2.5", you know, woman. Some trends do not suit me. I'm, you know, post 2 babies. There are some trends that don't suit me. So I think it's about knowing your body and picking pieces and silhouettes that flatter, and also paying attention to the trend. So that's another balance I try to
On that.
achieve. Yeah.
Oh, I know. You've done so much stuff. Is there anything that you haven't done in fashion yet that you're like, I'd like to try that sometime?
I mean, I think secretly, like my inner 10-year-old who used to play with fashion plates would one day love to design.
Yeah.
Like I would love to do like a capsule collection, or maybe I don't have to sew it,
Right. Just
but I would love to
a lot
maybe put
of
some
stuff.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. Now I know that. I didn't know that when I was at FIT. I was like, I can't do this. But yeah, I think that would be really cool and different. I don't know that I could do that every season. Like I have such respect for designers that are constantly inspired enough to put together a collection and, you know, have a full like story and theme and have the energy and the like the fortitude and the vulnerability, right? Because it's so much like their passions poured into these pieces. Like I don't know that I have the ability to do that, but maybe like to do it for like a capsule. That'd be super fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay.
Yeah,
That might be something we need to hook up.
there you go. I love it.
What would you say to someone who was trying to get into the style and fashion industry, but they just don't know where to start? What would be the first place you'd say, try starting here?
So I think again, we're going to go back to start with what you want.
Right.
Start with what you want. That's number one. Number two is then start looking at the people in the world, literally the world,
Yeah.
because we now have access to the people in the world
Yeah.
that could potentially help you. And I'm not saying, you know, you have a new product, write Kylie Jenner. No, I mean, also be reasonable. But, you know, I've had people reach out to me and kudos to them where they've said, you know, I'm starting and I want to be an on-air expert in a field. Could you put me in front of a producer? Or could you point me in the right direction of a PR company that maybe I could talk to? And you don't necessarily need to mine a person to do that. LinkedIn is a fabulous place for you to find out who people are.
Yeah.
Lots of people are on there. There's lots of organizations that have events, and now they're virtual, so they're even less scary, I think. So you can attend and just listen and sort of soak up information. But I think I would start with find people who are willing to talk to you and mine them for information. And don't go out there looking for a job or looking for handouts. Go out there looking for information because I think people are way more receptive to that. Then, hey, hi, how are you? Can I work for you?
Oh, no. Can you do this?
Yeah, or can you do something for me? No, but hey, how did you get started? Hey, who would you talk to if you were me? Like all of those questions are questions that people, they were once in your shoes and they won't mind answering. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, there could be a nugget of information in there that's amazing. So, you know, people used to say to me, I remember I had some friends in the US who would say, go for an informational. And you'd be like, what is that? Like, go for an informational interview. What? It means go and just soak up information from people because people have had careers, they've gone through processes and steps to get where they are. And so they have valuable information, whether it's a direction that you should go in or people that they know or resources that they consult. All of those things can help you, especially if you have your goal in mind. And so I think mine people for information. And if you can't find the people, do the research to find where they are.
That's amazing advice. That's amazing. Okay, now we're going to talk about how do you handle stress? I know this fashion life is demanding, plus you're a mom and a wife and a daughter and. So when you get really stressed, kind of what do you do?
So how do you handle stress? I'm like, handle? Yeah, okay. Uh,
Handle it.
I handle stress. I think like first let's talk about some of the things that happen when I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
I don't sleep. That's one of the things that definitely happens. So sleep evades me. And sometimes I procrastinate, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
So now, like what happens, I think like the biggest thing that I've done to combat stress is knowing how it manifests itself.
Right.
And so I think you
Coming.
can say I'm stressed out, but
Right.
like I'm stressed out, but like, okay, but how is it affecting you? So for me, my sleep, it affects my sleep. So how can I fix that? Well, I don't drink coffee after the morning.
Mhm.
Um, especially when I'm stressed out.
Right.
I try and exercise, especially when I'm stressed out. I try not to stay up too late because there's like a magic window of falling asleep that happens on the earlier side. Try not to stay up past that. That magic window is important. So I think that that's definitely important, is knowing how it shows up. And for me, another way it shows up is I'll avoid something. So if something's stressing me out and I don't even really realize it, it's like intimidating me or it's stressing me out, I'm avoiding it. So what do? I try and set up the perfect circumstances for me to tackle it. So whether that's, oh, I'm going to sit down in the perfect chair, in the comfy pants, in the whatever it is, I'll like try and align all the things to sort of make it so that I can get it done. And then I'll sit down to do it. And the other thing that I do is I break things down.
Okay.
So instead of I have 7,000 things to do, I make a list of all the things I have to do. And if I get these 3 done today, I'm great.
Yes.
And what you realize as you do that, I can picture my mom saying this. She's like, just do one thing at a time. And if you do that, what happens is things start to feel less intimidating and less stressful because you are checking those things off, but you're not feeling the breadth of all the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing with stress is knowing where it shows up. Because I think it shows up differently for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the no sleep. It's good that you notice that about yourself, because
it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
At 3 a.m. when I'm sending you emails, you know what's up. Just ask Vicky.
Oh,
Vicky Milner, who I know you're going to be chatting with as well. Yeah.
So, have you ever had to deal with someone that was really arrogant or rude? Which I know you have, but can you talk to us about how you handle those situations?
Yeah. So the fast answer is yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes. Throughout all kinds of experiences, whether it's, in law school where I didn't quite fit in because I was, more, I always say I was more Elle Woods than LA Law. Especially Elle Woods came out like that, Legally Blonde came out when I was in law school. So that was helpful. No. Or, being in a law firm and again, not quite fitting in, or being in the fashion industry and having had a law background, and that can sort of be off-putting to people, or just people sometimes suck. Like that's just the way it is. Yeah. So the fast answer is yes, I've definitely had to deal with people that have been, by my definition, mean or rude or arrogant or whatever, all of the above. How do I deal with it? Well, I think in some circumstances you just take it.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that is very hard for some people. Like there are some places you just gotta eat it, and it sucks. So that's one way. And I think it's about judging the circumstances, but there are some moments where you just have to take the treatment that you're getting, and let it just like roll off your back. And I know that's really, really hard because we are taught, I think for the most part, that we should stand up for ourselves or that we should speak up for ourselves. And in those moments, it's really tough to maybe hold your tongue or to just take what you're being given. But I definitely think that that's a skill that has benefited me, that I can have somebody say something. I mean, I remember I interned for W Magazine when I was in law school. So immediately I was sort of a weird fit, right? I'm this law student and I came to work at W Magazine in New York City. And I had someone be really, really rude to me. They would literally just make me stand by their desk for like a half an hour while they finished what they were doing.
Oh my God.
And I just remember being like, are you kidding me? Like, what is this? And it's so frustrating, right? Like, it's like demeaning and rude. I'm standing in the middle of this newsroom, which is like filled with all these really amazing writers and people. And I'm just like standing there, like, waiting. And they would do it. Like, it felt like it was on purpose.
It probably was. Yeah.
Right. But guess who just stood there?
My girl, Lisa.
This guy.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not a quiet person. I'm not one to not stand up for myself. But in that moment, I knew, here's this person. I'm going to report to them for the rest of the summer. I want to learn from them. So there's no way to get around this. I'm not going to like report her or like, you just have to take it. And know in the back of your head, I'm never going to do this to anyone because this is terrible.
Right.
And not that I didn't know that, but it really was reinforced.
Right.
And also knowing that this happens and how you handle it is going to be reflecting on you and not on that person.
Right.
So clearly she was miserable. Okay, how am I going to deal with this? And so I think that you have to be conscious of how it reflects on you and how your reaction is going to reflect on the other professional relationships that you have around you. And the other thing is speaking up for yourself when you need to.
Yeah.
So yes, you do have to just take it sometimes, but there's some moments where like don't take it,
Right.
and advocate for yourself. And if you can't advocate for yourself because it doesn't work or the circumstances do not allow for it, find people who can, or find people who can help you advocate for yourself. Because I don't want to sit here and say that you should just take everything, because I don't think you should.
Oh.
And there are moments where I think, you know, inappropriate comments from a law partner,
Mm.
you gotta speak up. You gotta say something and advocate for yourself. And if you can't, find the resources to help advocate for yourself, because there are moments where you should take it,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
but there are moments where you should not.
Right.
And I also think that if you absorb people's energy and sort of take a beat and then analyze what the best sort of channel or avenue is.
Yeah.
So that would be the other big thing, is you may want to advocate for yourself in the moment, but sometimes taking a beat
Give.
and just thinking about it for like a few seconds, sometimes more than that.
Yeah.
My husband is very good at advising me on that, because sometimes I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say something. And he's like, you may,
Yeah.
and you should,
However.
but take a step back for 2 minutes, sometimes longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it. And just think about the best way to do it, or the best way to go about it. So I think, yeah, another big thing, sometimes you have to just take it, but sometimes you don't. Just maybe take a minute for yourself and reflect on what the best way to deal with it is.
Yeah. That's smart. Like, what are my lines? What am I like? Okay, you got me right here, but once you go over here, it's time for me to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then take a minute and decide what you're going to say. Don't just go.
Don't
Yeah.
So how would you relate like past and present trends? And do you find fashion always has this cycle back?
I mean, in a way, yes, because I think we're dealing with, a pretty limited palette, right? Like, I don't think like,
We have so many parts, arms, legs. Yeah.
right. Well, that's yes, that. um, and so I think that there is some limitations there, although I think there are artists that are finding all kinds of ways around it. And then you incorporate technology and there's all kinds of other interesting ways around it. So I think like any art, there's going to be references to what came before it,
Hmm.
but there's room for all kinds of innovation and all kinds of things that we've never seen before. And I think that there are moments where I see things and maybe there is a reference there, or there is a harkening back to something I've seen before or something I've read about or studied, but there's something totally new and interesting and different that has come to fruition. So yeah, I think there's room for all kinds of stuff. And I think that like we haven't even imagined all the ways we're going to see,
Yeah.
fashion evolve. So I think history is a very important, I guess, feeder to fashion. It's like it's a reference point, but I think like there's all kinds of really brilliant people that come up with stuff, and yet to be seen, right? Especially when you start incorporating technology.
All the tech. Yeah, exactly. Can you give one piece of advice or one great tip for someone just kind of starting out that you think they should completely avoid, and something that you think they should start doing immediately?
Completely avoid.
Yeah, one of those big mistakes we make early on in our careers that we wish someone would have said, "Oh, don't do that."
Oh God, this is a whole other I was gonna say podcast. This is a whole other interview. I'm like, do you have another 3 hours? No. Avoid. So I think I would say, if you're just starting out, avoid the urge to say no.
Okay. Good.
Um, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I see people doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to like maybe know your brand or know your goal or know what, know who you are. I think all that's great. But I think saying yes to things, even if it's not totally in the right direction, can still lead you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think especially if you have your goal clear in your mind, because you won't be derailed totally. So for instance, and I can think of a very specific example for me, I wasn't in the habit of editorial styling. That wasn't necessarily what I was doing. And I was asked to be a stylist assistant for Fashion Television magazine for a shoot that we were going to do, I guess, with, I can't think of his name, pretty famous photographer, and Jeannie Becker, and another stylist who's very prominent in the scene, in the styling world still to this day. And I was like, I don't really want to be a stylist day to day. Like, yes, I've styled some people, but this is editorial styling's not my jam. So I was asked to do this styling job, and it was sort of outside of A, my comfort zone, B, not really what I was doing day to day at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm still going to do it, because for me to be able to be conversant in what happens at an editorial photo shoot, not that I hadn't seen one before, but I'd never actually been a stylist assistant before.
Right.
Well, that's going to inform you on the inner workings of this particular aspect of the fashion industry, which, while that may not be what I ended up doing day to day, it means that when people are talking about it, I know exactly what they're talking about. And so I think that not saying no can sometimes help you in the long run, even though it may feel like it's sort of derailing you. Just keep that goal in the back of your mind, and then make sure that you are absorbing the information that's around you. So not saying no, saying yes to some things. Why not do it?
Yeah.
That would be a big thing for me starting out. Avoid saying no.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, you're never too good for any
job. Oh God. And I had to do some very funny things on that job. But in the end, like I was busy, like on my knees, steaming these giant gowns, thinking, what am I doing? But in the end, like, I guess who does that now all the time when I'm going on air to do segments, and they're my segments, but I have to make sure that the clothes look a perfect certain way. And that experience, along with a whole series of other experiences, informed how I do my job now.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I would say absolutely do is build your network.
Yeah.
So connect with people. Like, and you never know what's going to come out of it. So I joined FGI when I moved to Toronto, and that's the Fashion Group International. And yes, there were some amazing fashion connections that came out of it. My work with Vicki Milner and Kafa came out of FGI, but also some of my greatest friends came out of FGI. So I think if you are, surrounded by like-minded people, you may find really supportive friends. You may find people that can help your career. You may find really great advisors. I think networking is key. And even if it feels a little bit like a job, treat it like fun. And I promise you, it will help you in the long run.
More than payoff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Last one. This is a little scenario time.
Okay.
Everything is gone. You have no connections, no experience, and you're about to start over in this industry. What's the first thing you do?
I mean, aside from having that goal clear, because I think that's where you start.
Yeah.
I think I would start by going out and mining people for information.
Yeah.
That's my number one place that I start is, who do I know? If I don't know them, where can I find them? How do I get their expertise or their sort of information or their wisdom, really? And then also, how do I pay it forward? Because I think that's very important.
Love that.
But I think that would be where I start, is with the people. And that goes for any industry, right? Like,
exactly.
There's a whole whack of people out there doing the jobs that unless it's something totally you've never heard of before, but even if it's some job we've never, it's still related to something else.
Yeah, somebody's something similar or same before. Yeah.
Yeah, or they're in the ecosystem where whatever it is you're looking to achieve will thrive. So find the ecosystem and talk to the people that are in it. and you would be surprised, like blown away at times
Yeah.
at how generous and amazing people can be with their time, or how they are actually looking to pay it forward. Because I know, like, if someone asked me, like, can I talk to you about my career, like, I'm super flattered. Like, you want to talk to me? Like, even this, like, it's so flattering. I like, it's so lovely to think that in some way I could contribute to someone else. Like, wow, I could do that. That's amazing. And I think there's an array of people out there who feel the same, that they would be glad to spend, and maybe it's not going to be days and days, but they'll spend a little bit of time with you, or they'll have an email exchange with you, or they'll send you in the right direction, or make an introduction. Introductions take no time.
Yeah.
So you'd be surprised at how many people are going to be willing to step up in those moments. And suddenly, where you were just starting out, you have 5 connections, 10 connections, and you start collecting the information, and that will absolutely push you towards whatever it is that goal in the back of your mind.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I'm so grateful to
Same.
meet you. And now I know so much more about you. So I'm really grateful and happy that you were able to join us today. And I hope you're
Me too.
doing. Thank you so much. And if you ever need anything, holla back, girl.
Well, thank you so much. This is amazing and so much fun and hilarious all at the same time. And yeah, I think what you're doing is incredible. And I think this is what it's all about. We all got to pivot and create new spaces for fashion. And I think it's amazing that you're doing this.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Take care. Have an amazing day.